I'm gonna do Logic's Pose from his 2019 album. So, alright folks, this is Acid Roots. I'm gonna review Logic's Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. Now, Logic has, basically dropped like a very bunch of projects, and I wanted to start messing with some of these. The unfortunate thing about it is the fact that he retired. Originally, I was going to review this album back in the spring and the winter. I really started listening to songs like Keanu Reeves and Homicide. I was going to pick this album up and, kind of do that, but I got some other stuff that was kind of in the back burner that I wanted to get fleshed out. And so I worked on that. I had my bro Cyan review his Young Sinatra 4 project. Now, obviously, I'm going to review this in more detail. I want to start getting to some of these. I will probably review Young Sinatra 4 also, is because, to me, Logic kind of came up the same time I was doing this Acid Root stuff. So this isn't from 1995 or 2002 or 2010. This is right at, when I was in the midst of reviewing like Eminem's Recovery and Royce the 5'9" and Dr. Dre and some of that stuff. Logic was on tour and putting out these albums and that sort of stuff. So I wanted to kind of start reviewing some of this stuff just to kind of see what was going on. Because that's the thing. Rap specifically kind of started to. Rap's always morphing, but that's just kind of the thing. Is I wanted to kind of get it from a different angle besides trap, and that's kind of the situation. Logic can do trap, but it seems like he's kind of conscious, kind of like Kanye West used to be with more edge and more rowdiness, and then, of course, in some cases, less flamboyantness also. And that's kind of the thing. I like Logic because he tries to be soulful. He doesn't really, he can be brash and brag and stuff, but it's more he shows off his skills, and I kind of like that. Kanye was not as lyrical, and Logic can rap quickly. There's a bunch of things. He has many highlights about him, and I'm not going to give this album like an exuberant score, but there are things I like about him that other rappers don't do. And that's kind of the situation there is I feel like it's kind of like when you hang out with other friends and then you meet like a new friend and it's like, oh, well, this friend doesn't do these sorts of things. That's kind of where I was coming from with some of that stuff. I listened to trap or West Coast or trying to think of other things I listened to, pop or R&B or something. You kind of get used to some of those type things. But so we'll talk about the singles as we dive into this project. So really there were like 4 music videos released. 3 of them were released as official singles, and then one was kind of just caught, like what almost became a hit, that sort of thing. So the lead single was Keanu Reeves, and this is a really brilliant song. It's so strange just because it's not typical of like what you would expect from a single, and that's kind of the type of song that I would have appreciated. I remember the song coming out last year, but I didn't know what to think, and just because I didn't really know Logic's style that well. Back in the day, I only remembered Logic for that Suicide song. That was the song I heard from him on the air with Alessia Cara and some other cat on there. It might have been Khalid or something like that. But so that was what I knew him from. I figured Logic was going to be like the next pop rapper or something, but then he switched it up. He did Young Sinatra 4, but Keanu Reeves is that's stellar song. That's the thing. It's not necessarily just pop rap or him selling out. It's kind of like it has a light version of like of posturing on there, but it's believable and also it's not annoying. This is kind of the situation. So it has some charm going for it just because it's original, it's lyrical, and it's pretty affable also. You pay attention to all those different things that you kind of look at it differently. The next single was the title track, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. This one is kind of mellow. It reminds me, I remember reviewing Stally from Rick Ross's label, his album. It kind of reminds me of that. Ritz, Stally, G-Eazy, they kind of do this sort of style that I'm hearing on this title track, Confessions. So, it's different. That's the thing. It's not really go out clubbing or go out get some women, that sort of thing. And this is real mellow. Maybe smoke a doobie to it, chillax, hang out in your backyard, whatever, sit in a lawn chair. This is strange. It might even be vehicle music. I mean, when you start to think about it, this is it really has like a mellow type thing. And for me to not talk about like Logic in the lyrics, I mean, he has lyrics, and that's the thing. I don't have a problem with him as a rapper. I'm not gonna complain about him like I would about like Gucci Mane or some of these rappers, like trap rappers, some of these folks that it's not so much they're bad, but it's just basic and a little bit too basic. So Logic does it. I mean, he raps quickly on quite a few songs. And that leads me to talking about the third single, which is Homicide. And that's probably one of the most brilliant songs on here. It was kind of what got me started with needing to pay attention to Logic more. This was his highest charting single from this album, basically one of his highest charting singles in his catalog. Eminem is on here, and I kind of thought, for a little while, because Eminem shows up on the song later, I was thinking, if he's not careful, if we get the Eminem from like the revival era, I would have said Logic would have bested him on this song, but Eminem is not going to let that happen. That's kind of the thing. You get two Logic verses, and he raps quick. He doesn't slip on the lyrics and stuff, but Eminem is still Eminem. I mean, he can rap. I mean, if the point is to rap quick, I'm starting to not like Eminem when he raps quickly as much. I'd rather him just obliterate the beat and kind of, kind of do it back in the way that he did the Eminem show days and the encore days. I mean, that was such an easier flow to follow and that sort of thing. Now it just seems like he tries to be like Twista and those type people, Twista or Ritz or Tech Nine or one of those folks that just kind of do that. And you think it's almost entertaining, but it does not have as much character. So I'm glad. I mean, Eminem did not get upstaged by Logic, but I give it to him. It's probably one of Eminem's better songs in recent times. So that's kind of the situation. If he had had songs like this on Revival and Kamikaze, I would have said, I mean, he really should. I almost think Logic should have given this song to Eminem, but it is Logic's song. I digress. That's off topic, but so those are the three singles, and then the kind of pseudo fourth single was Icy. Now, originally I was on the fence about this song. I kind of thought, well, maybe I like this song. The production on it is just so strange. It really feels like a winter song. It doesn't really feel like a summer and a cruising song. It just feels like so kind of like more introverted bookstore kind of. It's difficult to describe where you would kind of listen to it. I mean, it doesn't so much as have swag or charm as much as it has more like charisma, and this kind of, I'm talking like business suit charisma, that sort of stuff. You're not wearing a jersey or a tall tee or something. It's just different. So, but it's really strange because I didn't think Gucci Mane really fit the beat. It's not something I would typically put him on. I mean, I suppose he didn't flop on the song, but it just didn't really seem like his cup of tea. I mean, Logic fit the song perfectly, but Gucci Mane not as much. So those are the singles, and now to talk about the rest of the project. This is kind of where this album starts to sag. I mean, out of 16 songs, besides the 4 singles, I only really like 2 other songs. So there's a lot of like extra. I mean, this album is kind of extra. I guess that's the best way of putting it. I was kind of surprised. I mean, if Logic can do a song like Homicide, it just felt like maybe he put too much combined thought into the singles. And that's kind of the same thing I said with the DJ Khaled album. uh, I don't know why he did not have like more process into coming up with some album cuts, because Eminem used to be able to do it real well. 50 Cent could do it. Dr. Dre, those cats could do it. But I look at some of these songs, I kind of wonder, what Wannabe was, what Clickbait was, what Pardon My Ego was. Bobby, some of these songs, Don't Be Afraid to Be Different. I mean, a lot of these kind of just feel they're not. I mean, they don't have like enough personality to kind of carry out like an album that's intending to be more than just uh, coffee talk or something or gossip. Is this more as like, oh, hey, did you hear Logic is getting married? I mean, that's, I don't know. Yeah, what I'm trying to get to is just the fact that there's a lack of album cuts on here to kind of bolster Logic's ability to drop classics. Maybe he wasn't trying to, maybe he just wanted something to have a couple hits on there, but uh, really he succeeded in getting three good singles, but essentially there's not much else to speak of beyond that, and that's kind of the problem. I mean, if it was going to be 16 songs, I probably would have trimmed like three or four songs, and then it wouldn't have been as noticeable that it's like, well, it's not so much that it's unprofessional, it's that it feels kind of lousy. That's more of like the situation. The lousiness just kind of sets in, and there isn't like enough. I, with the kind of style that kind of goes on, there needs to be more colors, more shades of color on this project to kind of provide that sort of thing. Because a lot of it, I mean, for it to be like a kind of thought provoking slash conscious album, it just would seem like there needs to be more angles beyond uh, just something for like introverted things. So yeah, just simply not enough extra character. I think that's kind of the thing. There needed to be like more dimension on this project. And I know Logic can do it. I can tell this by the way he raps. It's like if he can put that much ability into rapping that good, you would think. I don't want to sit there and blame like the song topics, but somehow I think that there is a difference between like Homicide and Keanu Reeves and then some of the other songs that are on here. I mean, some of these obviously feel the difference between filler and the songs you immediately go for. That's kind of the thing. I mean, the more you listen to it, the easier it becomes to notice, just because it's not really that seamless. I mean, I do feel like it's kind of like there. Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the thing. It's basically not an unskippable album, and that's kind of the situation. You buy the album, it's like, yeah, I don't really like that one. That happens more often than what you'd probably care to admit, and so yeah, this is kind of the situation. But so I'll tell you like the 6 songs out of 16 that I enjoyed and I recommend to you if you haven't heard them already. I mean, obviously Logic fans, I'll tell you the songs I recommend to you, the 6 songs. So, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, Homicide, Commando, Icy, Still Ballin' with Wiz Khalifa, and Keanu Reeves. And yeah, G-Eazy and Wiz Khalifa, they do a good job also. I'll mention that. But those are the 6 songs. And that's just kind of the thing. I mean, there's some other soulful attempts, kind of mellow and laid back attempts on here, like Lost in Translation and Limitless. And even Commando is kind of like that. Commando succeeds, but I don't know. I mean, if he can nail it once, I feel like it was not. I don't. It's difficult to kind of describe why he can do it on like the title track, but not be able to do it another time. So it's kind of what you start to get to is just kind of talking about. Well, there needed to be, like I was saying, more shades of color on this project to kind of say, well, we've got some soulful stuff. I mean, maybe a smoking song, a posse song. Uh, not really too many beside. I think Commando was attempting to be kind of like for the ladies, but not an abundance of kind of songs like that. Just simple topics that could kind of go along with that sort of thing. So a little bit, I would have preferred more kind of primary topics to kind of see some things shine. I mean, Keanu Reeves worked, Homicide worked, but we need something more to kind of latch on to. Icy worked, but you'll notice. I mean, there's just too much filler, too much skip worthy stuff. So I'm gonna give this album, me liking 6 out of 16. I'm gonna give this album a 4 out of 10. And I'm just gonna have to say, the social score, which I would recommend as far as how it goes with your friends and stuff, I would say it's basically that gets like an 8 just because all the singles are good. All four of them happen to be real well. Homicide has Eminem. Keanu Reeves is a brilliant song. Confessions is a real laid back and chill song. And then Icy has Gucci Mane, and that one's kind of a surprise charm. But so that's kind of the situation. So I give, like, as far as like promotion and how it works around your friends, I would say it gets about an 8, but there's just not enough. It's real short lived. I think that's another way of putting it. Is it's not so much like long winded. It's real short lived. You listen to a song. If you hear this with someone else and you hear like a song off this album, you'll probably be thinking, okay, well, you'd probably think, like, what else is on here? You hear Homicide, and then it's like, oh, well, what else is there? And it's like, well, this album is not. It's kind of like with Old Dirty Bastard. I mean, he was really not a pro at dropping classics and shit, but he did have good songs. That's kind of the way I'm starting to think Logic is. I mean, Snoop Dogg's kind of like that. Some of these folks, Snoop Dogg's kind of like that. Some of these folks, ODB, but yeah, so that's kind of the way Logic is. So it's real light. It's just kind of half baked almost. So 4 out of 10, 8 social. Yeah.